I am Amanda, 29 years old, and I used to believe that family meant unconditional love and support. Growing up in our middle-class Pennsylvania suburb, I never imagined my own brother would betray me so completely. Justin was always the golden child, but when he destroyed my career and our parents still chose him over me, I finally understood the painful truth about our family. What none of us expected was how karma would eventually come full circle. Let me know where you are watching from in the comments. And if my story resonates with you, please like and subscribe before I continue with how this all began. My earliest memories with Justin are actually happy ones. Being only 3 years apart, we spent our childhood playing in the backyard of our suburban home, building blanket forts in the living room, and riding bikes around the neighborhood. I remember teaching him how to tie his shoes and helping him with simple addition before he started kindergarten. There was a time when I genuinely believed we would always be close, always have each other's backs no matter what. How naive I was. Our parents, David and Catherine, worked hard to give us a comfortable life. Dad built a successful accounting practice in our town, while Mom taught English at the local high school. From the outside, we looked like the perfect American family. But inside our home, the dynamics were far more complicated. The shift began subtly when Justin turned 12. I was 15 and starting to focus more on academics, while he was discovering his talent for baseball. One afternoon, I came home to find my science project, which I had spent weeks perfecting, damaged beyond repair. When I confronted Justin, he immediately denied responsibility, even though I had seen his friends leaving our house just minutes before I arrived. Amanda must have left it too close to the edge of the table, Justin told our parents with convincing innocence in his eyes. It probably fell by itself, despite the impossibility of a carefully placed project falling by itself. And despite the baseball clearly visible among the wreckage of my work, my parents nodded sympathetically. You should have put it somewhere safer, Amanda, my father said, not even considering that Justin might be lying. You know how important your science grades are for college applications. That night, I had to stay up until 3 a.m. recreating my project. Justin never apologized, and my parents never questioned his story. It was the first clear instance of a pattern that would define our family relationships for years to come. As we grew older, the favoritism became increasingly obvious. I maintained a perfect 4.0 GPA throughout high school, joined the debate team, edited the school newspaper, and volunteered at the local animal shelter. Justin maintained a C average, but excelled at baseball, which became my father's obsession. Dad never missed a single one of Justin's games, but frequently had important client meetings during my debate competitions. My friend Stephanie noticed it before I fully admitted it to myself. We were 16, sitting on my bed as I showed her the acceptance letter to a prestigious summer academic program. "Are your parents excited?" she asked. "They said it's nice," I replied, "but they're more focused on Justin's regional baseball tournament that happens the same week." Stephanie frowned. "Amanda, don't you see what's happening? They always put Justin first. Always. They're just supporting both of us in different ways," I defended, but deep down, I knew she was right. Our house reflected these priorities. The living room walls displayed dozens of photos of Justin in his baseball uniform, trophies from his games, newspaper clippings about his athletic achievements. My academic awards were relegated to a small shelf in the hallway, visible only if you were specifically looking for them. When I graduated as valedictorian of my high school class, my speech was scheduled for the same day as one of Justin's baseball games. Instead of asking Justin to miss a single game out of dozens, my parents attended only the first few minutes of the graduation ceremony, slipping out before my speech to make it to Justin's game on time. I stood at the podium, delivering carefully prepared words to a crowd of strangers, scanning the audience for my parents' faces and finding only empty seats. But the incident that truly opened my eyes happened just after my high school graduation. I had saved for 3 years to buy a used car, working weekends at the local library and summers at an ice cream shop. The 2005 Honda Civic wasn't fancy, but it was mine, paid for with my own money. 2 weeks after I bought it, Justin asked to borrow it to drive to a party. I reluctantly agreed after he promised to be careful. At 3 in the morning, I received a call from him, his voice slurred with alcohol. "Amanda, I kind of had an accident with your car," he said, trying to sound casual. "It's not that bad, but I can't drive it home." The not that bad turned out to be a completely totaled vehicle. Justin had driven it into a ditch with a blood alcohol level well above the legal limit. He was only 17, not old enough to drink legally. The responding officer was a friend of my father's and agreed not to file charges if our parents came to pick Justin up. When I expressed my shock and anger the next morning, my parents' response left me speechless. "You shouldn't have loaned him the car, Amanda," my mother said. "You know how teenagers can be impulsive. But he was drunk driving. My car is destroyed. I worked for 3 years to buy that car. Insurance will cover some of it," my father said dismissively. "Besides, Justin feels terrible about it. Don't make him feel worse. He could have been hurt." "What about me?" I asked, tears streaming down my face. "Don't you care how I feel?" My father sighed as if I was being dramatic. "Of course we care, but accidents happen. The important thing is that your brother is safe." My mother added, "Amanda, you've always been the responsible one. Can't you be the bigger person here?" That was the moment I truly understood that, in my parents' eyes, Justin's well-being would always take precedence over mine. His mistakes would always be forgiven, his needs always prioritized, while I would always be expected to be the bigger person. I graduated high school with no car, a broken heart, and the painful awareness that the people who should have been my strongest advocates had no intention of fulfilling that role. Yet somehow I still hoped things might change as we grew older. That hope, like my car, was destined for destruction. When college acceptance letters arrived, I had my pick of excellent schools thanks to my academic record. I chose State University, which offered me a substantial merit scholarship that covered about 70% of my tuition. I assumed my parents would help with the remaining costs, as they had always told us they were saving for our college education. "We can contribute about $500 per semester," my father informed me when I showed him the financial aid package. "The rest you'll need to cover with student loans or a part-time job." I was confused. "But what about the college fund you and Mom have been saving in?" My parents exchanged uncomfortable glances before my mother explained, "We need to keep most of that for Justin. His grades aren't strong enough for scholarships, and you know how expensive private universities are." Indeed, Justin had set his heart on Westfield University, a private school known more for its party atmosphere and Division I sports program than its academics. The tuition was nearly triple what mine was, even before my scholarship. So, because I worked hard and earned a scholarship, I get less financial support? I asked, trying to understand their logic. "You've always been so independent and responsible, Amanda," my mother said, as if that was a justification. "Justin needs more help to succeed." And so I began college with a work-study position in the university library, plus weekend shifts waiting tables at a local restaurant. Between classes, studying, and working 20 hours a week, I barely had time to sleep, let alone enjoy the social aspects of college life. Meanwhile, Justin settled into Westfield with a generous monthly allowance from our parents, a brand new car they purchased for him after the one he'd destroyed, and no need to work alongside his studies. His social media was filled with fraternity parties, spring break trips, and tailgating events, while I was calculating how many extra shifts I could pick up to afford textbooks for the next semester. During my sophomore year, I met Andrew in my business ethics class. He was thoughtful, hardworking, and understood my drive to succeed because he shared it. His family wasn't wealthy either, and he respected my independence. For the first time, I felt truly seen and valued by someone. "You're amazing," he told me one night as we studied late in the library. "Do your parents have any idea how incredible you are?" I shrugged, not wanting to delve into my family dynamics. "They're more impressed by home runs than Dean's List." Andrew frowned. "Their loss, then." "I see you, Amanda. I see how hard you work and how much you accomplish despite having every obstacle thrown in your way." Those words meant more to me than he could possibly know. While I completed my business degree in exactly 4 years, maintaining my scholarship and graduating with honors, Justin took a more leisurely approach to his education. He changed majors 3 times, took several semesters with reduced course loads, and generally treated college as an extended vacation. My parents never questioned his approach, continuing to fund his lifestyle without complaint. After 6 years, Justin finally graduated with a bachelor's degree in communications. My parents threw him an extravagant graduation party, inviting extended family and friends to celebrate his achievement. 2 weeks earlier, I had been promoted to junior marketing manager at the firm where I'd been working since my own graduation. But my parents' acknowledgement consisted of a brief "that's nice, honey" during our monthly phone call. Justin moved back home after graduation, telling our parents he needed time to find himself and figure out his career path. This period of self-discovery apparently involved sleeping until noon, playing video games, and occasionally applying for jobs that interested him, all while my parents covered his expenses and made excuses for his lack of progress. "The job market is tough right now," my mother would say during our increasingly infrequent phone conversations. "Justin is being very selective about his career path." Meanwhile, I was working 50-hour weeks, building my reputation at Marshall and Reed Marketing, and saving every penny I could. By the time I was 26, I had managed to put together a down payment for a small but modern 1-bedroom apartment in the city. When I called my parents to share the news about my first property purchase, they seemed distracted. "That's wonderful, Amanda," my mother said without enthusiasm. "Oh, did we tell you? Justin has an interview next week with a marketing agency. One of your father's clients referred him." The fact that my parents were trying to help Justin break into my industry, leveraging my father's connections rather than Justin's qualifications, didn't surprise me. By this point, I had accepted that this was how our family operated. Justin would always receive support, opportunities, and second chances, while I would be expected to create my own path. I maintained minimal contact with my family during this period, calling once a month and visiting on major holidays. Each visit was the same: hours of conversation about Justin's potential, his challenges, and his plans, with perhaps 5 minutes devoted to my actual achievements. I learned to lower my expectations to rock bottom and found that even those were rarely met. Andrew became my rock during these years. His own family welcomed me warmly, including me in their holidays and treating me with the kind of genuine interest and support that I'd always craved from my own parents. With Andrew and my growing circle of friends from work, I began to build something that felt more like family than what I had experienced growing up. What I didn't realize was that the worst betrayal was yet to come, and it would force me to make decisions about my family that I had been avoiding for years. 3 years into my career at Marshall and Reed, I was assigned to lead a major campaign for Novatech, a rising technology company launching a revolutionary product. This was my biggest opportunity yet. A chance to prove myself worthy of the senior marketing manager position that would soon be opening up. For months, I worked tirelessly, developing innovative strategies, coordinating with the creative team, and building relationships with the client. During a rare Sunday dinner at my parents' house, Justin asked about my work. It was so unusual for him to show interest in my career that I felt momentarily touched. In that moment of vulnerability, seeking connection with my brother, I shared some details about the campaign strategy that had taken me weeks to develop. "That actually sounds really interesting," Justin said, seeming genuinely engaged. The targeting approach you're using is pretty innovative. Thanks, I replied, surprised by his interest. It's confidential though, so please don't mention it to anyone. The campaign launches in 6 weeks. Of course not, he assured me. Marketing confidentiality, I get it. What I didn't know was that Justin had recently started dating Megan, who worked at WebSphere Marketing, one of our direct competitors who was pitching for the same client. I had never met Megan, as Justin hadn't brought her to any family events, and he hadn't mentioned where she worked. 3 weeks before our campaign was set to launch, I was called into my boss Richard's office. The moment I walked in and saw the executive team assembled, along with representatives from legal, I knew something was terribly wrong. Amanda, please sit down, Richard said, his usually friendly face stern and professional. We need to discuss a serious matter concerning the Novatech campaign. The Chief Operating Officer, Barbara, spoke next. Novatech informed us this morning that they received an identical campaign pitch from WebSphere Marketing yesterday. The strategy, targeting approach, even some of the creative concepts are virtually identical to what we presented last month. My blood ran cold. That's impossible. Our strategy was developed in-house and is completely proprietary. The similarities are too specific to be coincidental, Richard said. Someone with detailed knowledge of our campaign shared information with WebSphere. I would never compromise our work, I said firmly, my mind racing, and then I remembered. Justin, his sudden interest, the questions he'd asked, his new girlfriend whose name and workplace I knew nothing about. We're conducting a full investigation, Barbara continued. Until we determine how this information was leaked, we're placing you on administrative leave. As the team leader, the responsibility ultimately falls to you. I left the office in a daze, my career suddenly hanging by a thread. 7 years of hard work, sacrifices, and perfect performance reviews potentially destroyed. I called Justin immediately. Did you tell anyone about the Novatech campaign I discussed with you? I demanded when he answered. What? No. Of course not, he replied, but there was a hesitation in his voice that I recognized from childhood, the slight pause before a lie. Justin, this is serious. I've been placed on leave. Someone leaked our entire strategy to WebSphere Marketing. Does your girlfriend work there? Another pause. Amanda, calm down. It's not what you think. Where does Megan work, Justin? I pressed. Look, yes, she works at WebSphere, but I didn't specifically tell her about your campaign. We just talk about work sometimes. Maybe I mentioned some general concepts. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. General concepts? Justin, they presented our exact strategy. I could lose my job. It's just business, Amanda, he said. His tone suddenly dismissive. Companies compete all the time. It's not like I gave them your actual presentation. Just business. I echoed in disbelief. This is my career, my reputation. How could you do this? Look, Megan was stressed about making a good impression with this client. I just wanted to help her out. I didn't think it would be a big deal. I hung up and drove straight to my parents' house, hoping against hope that they would finally see Justin for who he was and stand by me in this crisis. I found them in the kitchen, preparing dinner, and poured out the whole story, showing them texts from Justin that essentially admitted his guilt. My father's response left me breathless. Amanda, you shouldn't have discussed confidential work matters outside the office. That was unprofessional of you. I made a mistake trusting my brother, I shot back. But Justin deliberately took that information and gave it to a competitor. He knew exactly what he was doing. My mother sighed. I'm sure he didn't mean any harm. He was just trying to help his girlfriend impress her bosses. You know how important this relationship is to him. More important than my entire career? I asked incredulously. I could be fired. At minimum, I'll lose the promotion I've been working toward for years. These things have a way of working themselves out, my father said dismissively. Companies always have these dramatic corporate espionage concerns. In a month, no one will even remember this happened. How can you defend him? I asked, tears streaming down my face. He betrayed me. He knew exactly how important this was to me. You're overreacting, my mother said, patting my hand in a way that made me want to scream. Family is more important than any job. Justin made a mistake, but you need to forgive him. Has Justin ever had to forgive me for destroying something important to him? I asked. Has he ever had to be the bigger person? My parents exchanged that look I knew so well, the one that said I was being difficult and unreasonable. Amanda, we raised you to be more mature than this, my father said. Justin is still finding his way. You've always been the strong one. In that moment, something broke inside me. The last thread of hope that my parents would ever see me, value me, or protect me snapped completely. I stood up from the kitchen table. I've spent my entire life being the strong one, the responsible one, the one who never needed help because Justin always needed it more. I'm done. When you decide to have 2 children instead of 1, let me know. I walked out of their house that day and didn't return for 3 years. The next week was a blur of meetings with HR, interviews with the company's legal team, and sleepless nights wondering if my career was over before it had really begun. My salvation came from an unexpected source. Laura, a colleague from the creative team, had been working late the night before our strategy was finalized and had seen me delete several early concepts from the shared server, concepts that weren't included in the final presentation. WebSphere's pitch included those deleted concepts, Laura told the investigation team. Amanda was the only one who worked on those specific ideas, and she discarded them before sharing the strategy with the full team. The only way WebSphere could have those concepts is if they got them from someone Amanda shared them with personally, not from someone on our team. Her evidence proved that the leak couldn't have come from me sharing information carelessly with other colleagues, supporting my explanation about Justin. But the damage was done. Novatech split their business between our agency and WebSphere, cutting our contract value in half. Richard, who had been my mentor, now regarded me with caution. The promotion I had been working toward went to someone else, someone without a cloud of scandal hanging over them. My reputation in the company, previously spotless, was now tarnished by whispers and doubts. Justin never apologized. My parents never acknowledged the severity of what he had done. And I never forgave any of them. The weeks following the betrayal were some of the darkest of my life. I would wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, reliving the moment in Richard's office when I realized my career might be over. During the day, I would catch colleagues whispering when I entered the room, their conversations abruptly shifting to innocuous topics. The trust one had built over years was damaged, perhaps irreparably. Andrew was my lifeline during this period. He would listen patiently as I processed the same thoughts over and over, never showing frustration with my need to talk through the betrayal. I keep thinking I should have seen it coming. I told him one night, as we sat on my small apartment balcony. The pattern was there my entire life. Justin takes, my parents enable him, and I'm expected to just accept it. You wanted to believe the best of your family, Andrew said gently. That's not a character flaw, Amanda. That's being human. My friend Stephanie drove 3 hours to spend a weekend with me after hearing what happened. Having witnessed the family dynamics throughout our childhood, she understood the betrayal on a level others couldn't. I'm not surprised, she said bluntly as we shared a bottle of wine. I'm just glad you're finally seeing them clearly. Your parents have been setting you up for disappointment your entire life by treating Justin like he's made of glass while expecting you to be made of steel. With Andrew and Stephanie's encouragement, I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Fisher, who specialized in family trauma. Our weekly sessions became an anchor as I navigated both my professional uncertainty and my personal grief. What you're experiencing is a form of complex grief, Dr. Fisher explained. You're mourning the family you thought you had, the family you deserved to have. That process takes time. At work, I was transferred to a different department. Away from the clients I had built relationships with. My new role had less visibility and responsibility, a clear demotion without the official title change. I accepted it without complaint, determined to rebuild my reputation one project at a time. For the first few months, I maintained minimal contact with my family, responding to my mother's texts with brief, factual updates, but declining invitations for Sunday dinners or holiday gatherings. Eventually, even those text exchanges became less frequent, as my parents seemed to realize I wasn't quickly moving past what had happened. About 6 months after the incident, my mother called with what she clearly thought was an olive branch. "Justin and Megan are having an engagement party next month," she said brightly, as if nothing had happened. "They'd love for you to be there. It would mean so much to your brother." The audacity was breathtaking. Justin had betrayed me, damaged my career, shown zero remorse, and now expected me to celebrate his relationship with the very woman who had benefited from his betrayal? "I won't be attending," I said simply. "Amanda, this grudge has gone on long enough," my mother said, her voice taking on the familiar tone of disappointment. "You need to forgive your brother. Family is forever. Family should be the people who hurt you the least, not the most," I replied. "Justin hasn't even apologized. He's your brother. He shouldn't have to apologize for you to support him on his special day." That was the final conversation I had with my mother for over 2 years. I sent a brief email to both my parents afterward, explaining that I needed space from the family and would be in touch when I felt ready. I blocked their numbers and social media accounts, not out of spite, but as an act of self-preservation. The next 2 years were focused entirely on rebuilding. I poured myself into my work, gradually earning back the trust of my colleagues and superiors. I volunteered for challenging projects, worked longer hours than anyone else, and slowly began to see recognition for my efforts once again. When a position opened in our company's Seattle office, I applied immediately. The change of scenery, the 3,000 miles between myself and my family's influence, felt like exactly what I needed. Andrew, whose software development skills were in high demand anywhere, supported the move without hesitation. "We can build something new there," he said. Together, Seattle brought new opportunities professionally and personally. My new team knew nothing of the scandal at my previous office, judging me solely on my current performance, which was exceptional. I made new friends, people who knew me as I was now, not as the perpetually responsible daughter or the disgraced marketing manager. Through Stephanie, who still lived in my hometown and occasionally ran into mutual acquaintances, I heard bits of news about my family. Justin and Megan had broken up shortly after their engagement, apparently over her dissatisfaction with his career prospects. At 30, he was still living with our parents, cycling through various jobs but never seeming to find his footing. I felt no satisfaction in his struggles. Despite everything, I didn't wish him ill. I just wanted him to experience the natural consequences of his actions for once, without our parents rushing in to cushion his fall. By my 31st birthday, I had been promoted twice in Seattle, now holding a position higher than the one I'd lost due to Justin's betrayal. Andrew and I bought a small house in a vibrant neighborhood, adopting a rescue dog named Cooper who quickly became the center of our world. I had built a life I loved, free from the toxic patterns of my childhood. I occasionally thought about reaching out to my parents, wondering if time and distance had changed anything. But each time I drafted an email or picked up the phone, I remembered the look on their faces when they defended Justin after he destroyed my career. Some wounds are too deep to risk reopening. Then, on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Amanda? It's Justin. Please don't hang up. I need your help." I almost ended the call immediately, but something in Justin's voice stopped me. He sounded different, desperate in a way I'd never heard before. I know I'm the last person you want to talk to, he continued when I didn't respond. But I really need to see you. Can we meet somewhere? Please. 3 years of carefully constructed boundaries were screaming at me to say no, but curiosity won out. I'm not in New York anymore. I live in Seattle now. I know, he said quickly. I found out from Stephanie's mom. I'm actually in Seattle for a job interview. Can we meet for coffee tomorrow? Just to talk. After a long pause, I agreed to meet him at a cafe near my office, a public place where I could leave easily if needed. I spent that night restless, wondering what crisis had finally prompted Justin to reach out after all this time. Part of me hoped he wanted to make amends, but experience had taught me to expect the worst. When I arrived at the cafe the next day, I almost didn't recognize my brother. The Justin I remembered had always been well-groomed, dressed in expensive clothes bought by our parents, radiating the easy confidence of someone who had never faced real consequences. The man sitting at the corner table looked disheveled and anxious, his clothes slightly rumpled, dark circles under his eyes. Amanda, he said, standing awkwardly as I approached. Thank you for coming. I sat down across from him, maintaining a purposeful emotional distance. You said you needed to talk. Justin fidgeted with his coffee cup. I don't even know where to start. Things have been bad. Really bad. I'm listening, I said, neither warm nor cold. I've been unemployed for almost 2 years now, he began. The job I'm interviewing for here is my last hope, really. Mom and Dad have been supporting me financially, but it comes with strings. So many strings. I nodded, but offered no sympathy. This was exactly the enabling pattern I had witnessed my entire life. They control everything, Justin continued, growing animated. Where I go, who I see, what I do with my time. It's like being a teenager again, except worse because I'm 32 years old living in my childhood bedroom. That sounds difficult, I said neutrally. But I'm not sure what it has to do with me. Justin took a deep breath. I made a terrible mistake, Amanda. Worse than what I did to you, if you can believe that. I raised an eyebrow but remained silent. Dad was talking about investing some of their retirement savings. He asked for my opinion because I'd been following some investment forums online. I convinced him to let me handle a portion of their money, told him I could double it in 6 months. I could see where this was heading. Let me guess. You lost it. Justin nodded miserably. It was a cryptocurrency thing. It seemed legitimate, but it wasn't. I lost almost $200,000 of their retirement savings. Despite everything Justin had done to me, I felt a moment of genuine shock. Our parents had always been careful with money, saving diligently for decades. $200,000 represented years of their hard work. When did this happen? I asked. 3 months ago. They were planning to retire next year, but now. He trailed off, staring into his coffee. They're furious. Dad threatened to kick me out. Mom cries all the time. The only reason they haven't thrown me out is they're afraid I'll end up homeless. I'm sorry that happened, I said carefully. But I still don't understand why you're telling me this. Justin looked up, his eyes desperate. I need a place to stay, Amanda. Just temporarily, until I can get back on my feet. If I get this job in Seattle, I could start repaying them, show them I'm serious about fixing my mistake. But I can't afford an apartment, not until I get a few paychecks. I stared at him in disbelief. You want to stay with me? After everything that happened? I know it's a lot to ask, he said quickly. But you're my sister. We're family. Despite everything. Despite you betraying my trust and nearly destroying my career? I asked, my voice level but firm. Despite you never once apologizing or acknowledging the harm you caused. Justin had the grace to look ashamed. I was wrong, Amanda. What I did to you was terrible. I was selfish and thoughtless. I've had a lot of time to think about my life. About the kind of person I've been. I'm trying to change. And you need money too, I assume? I asked, cutting to what I suspected was the real point. He hesitated, then nodded. Just enough to pay back some of what I lost. Show them I'm serious about making amends. Maybe 10,000? I know it's a lot, but I'd pay you back as soon as I'm working. The irony was almost too much. The golden child, the one who had always been protected and prioritized, now turning to the sister he had betrayed, the one who had been left to fend for herself. The cafe bustled around us, patrons ordering lattes and typing on laptops, oblivious to the family drama unfolding at our table. A barista called out names for completed orders. The espresso machine hissed, and soft music played in the background, all creating a surreal soundtrack to this unexpected reunion. Justin leaned forward, his expression earnest. "I know I don't deserve your help, Amanda, but I've changed. I've learned from my mistakes. I just need one chance to prove it." I studied my brother's face, searching for sincerity. There was desperation there, certainly, fear too, but was there genuine remorse? Or was this just another manipulation, the kind I had grown up with? "What about Mom and Dad?" I asked. "Have they suggested you reach out to me?" Justin shook his head. "They don't know I'm here. They still think you overreacted to what happened. They don't understand why you cut us off." Of course they didn't. In their world, Justin's needs would always come first, and my pain would always be minimized. Nothing had changed. "You know, Justin," I said after a long moment, "I've spent years in therapy unpacking our family dynamics. Do you understand what it did to me, growing up as I did? Always being held to a higher standard? Always watching you receive endless chances while I got none." "Amanda, I held up a hand. "I'm not finished. When you betrayed me 3 years ago, it wasn't just about my career. It was the culmination of a lifetime of being treated as less valuable, less worthy of protection and support. And now you're here, asking me to save you from the consequences of your actions." Again. Justin's face fell. "So that's a no." I took a deep breath, considering my response carefully. "It's not a simple yes or no, Justin," I said finally. "I need you to understand something fundamental about life that our parents never taught you. Actions have consequences." Justin slumped in his chair. "Believe me, I'm facing the consequences now." "Are you, though?" I asked. "You're sitting here asking me to rescue you, just like Mom and Dad have rescued you your entire life. That's not facing consequences. That's looking for another escape route." "What do you expect me to do?" he asked, frustration edging into his voice. "Live on the street?" "I made a mistake, Amanda. A bad one. But I'm trying to fix it." "No, you're trying to get someone else to fix it for you," I corrected. "There's a difference." I paused, gathering my thoughts. This moment felt important. Not just for Justin, but for me. For 3 years, I had avoided this confrontation, choosing instead to walk away completely. Now I had the chance to say what needed to be said. "When you shared my marketing strategy with Megan, you didn't just betray my trust. You showed a fundamental disregard for my well-being. You were willing to risk my entire career. Everything I had worked for, just to impress your girlfriend." "I didn't think it would impact you that much," Justin said defensively. "Companies steal ideas from each other all the time." "See, that's exactly the problem," I responded. "You didn't think, or you didn't care enough to think. And afterward, you showed no remorse. Not once in 3 years have you reached out to apologize, to ask how that betrayal affected my life. You're only here now because you need something." Justin shifted uncomfortably. "Okay, maybe I should have apologized. I'm sorry. Is that what you want to hear?" An apology 3 years late, delivered only when you need a favor, isn't particularly meaningful, I said. But this isn't actually about getting an apology. It's about accountability. I took a sip of my coffee, which had grown cold during our conversation. "Let me tell you what happened after you betrayed me. I was nearly fired. When I kept my job, I was demoted. Colleagues I'd worked with for years suddenly didn't trust me. The promotion I'd been working toward went to someone else. I had to transfer to a different office in a different city to rebuild my career." "I didn't know," Justin said quietly. "Because you never asked," I pointed out. "Neither did Mom and Dad. None of you cared enough to find out how your actions affected me." Justin looked genuinely chastened for the first time. "I really am sorry, Amanda. Not just because I need help now, but for what I did. I was selfish. Yes, you were, I agreed. And the problem is that our parents have enabled that selfishness your entire life. They've cushioned you from consequences, made excuses for your behavior, and always put your needs above mine. Justin was silent for a long moment. So, what am I supposed to do now? They're going to disown me, just like they did to you. I wasn't disowned, Justin, I said firmly. I disowned them. I chose to walk away from a family dynamic that was destroying me. There's a big difference. His eyes widened slightly at the distinction. As for what you should do, I continued, I'll tell you what I'm willing to offer. Not money. Not a place to stay. But I will pay for 6 sessions with a career counselor who specializes in helping people identify their strengths and find suitable employment. And I'll review your resume and help you prepare for interviews. That's it? Justin asked, disappointment evident in his voice. Amanda, I need actual help, not career advice. What you need is to learn how to stand on your own feet, I replied. Something I had to learn at a much younger age because no one was there to rescue me when things got difficult. This is different, Justin insisted, his frustration growing. I made one mistake with their money. One. And I made one mistake trusting you with confidential information, I countered. But that single mistake had major consequences for me. Why should your mistake be treated differently? Because I'm your brother, Justin exclaimed, loud enough that several nearby patrons glanced our way. Family is supposed to help each other. Family is supposed to support each other, I corrected. Not enable destructive patterns. If I give you money now, what happens the next time you make a poor decision? You'll come back for more, never learning to solve your own problems. Justin's expression darkened. You've gotten cold. Amanda, success has made you selfish. I almost laughed at the irony. No, Justin. I've gotten healthy. I've learned to set boundaries with people who have hurt me repeatedly. That's not coldness. It's self-respect. So you're just going to let Mom and Dad disown me? He asked, his voice taking on a desperate edge. They'll cut me off completely if I can't start paying them back. They won't, I said with certainty. They never have before. They'll be angry, they'll threaten, but ultimately they'll keep supporting you because that's the dynamic they've created. They need you to need them. Justin stared at me, then made one final plea. Please, Amanda. They'll disown me like they did to you. I leaned forward, making sure my words were absolutely clear. No, Justin. I disowned them after they chose you. There's a difference between being cast out and walking away. I chose to walk away from a toxic situation. You have the same choice. You just don't want to make it because it's harder than asking me for money. Justin's face flushed with anger. He stood abruptly, nearly knocking over his chair. You know what? Forget it. I don't need your help or your lectures. I'll figure something out on my own. I hope you do, I said calmly. That offer of career counseling stands, if you change your mind. Without another word, Justin stormed out of the cafe, leaving me alone at the table. Strangely, I didn't feel upset or angry. Instead, a sense of peace settled over me. For the first time, I had confronted the dynamics that had shaped our family without being drawn back into them. I had offered help that would actually benefit Justin in the long run, rather than enabling his dependence. Whether he took that help or not was his choice. That evening, as I was preparing dinner with Andrew, my phone rang. It was my parents' number, the first time they had called in 3 years. Hello? I answered, mentally preparing myself. Amanda, my father's voice was tight with anger. What did you say to your brother? He called us completely upset. I offered to help him find employment and develop career skills, I replied evenly. I declined to give him money or housing. After everything we've done for you, my father said. You can't help your own brother in his time of need? What exactly have you done for me, Dad? I asked, genuinely curious about his perception. The question seemed to throw him. We raised you, educated you, gave you every advantage. I put myself through college with scholarships and part-time jobs, I reminded him. I built my career without connections or support. I bought my first home without your help. That's because you didn't need our help, my mother's voice chimed in, apparently on speakerphone. You were always independent. Justin needs more support. He needs accountability, I corrected. Something neither of you have ever given him. How dare you criticize our parenting, my father sputtered. We gave both of you a good home, opportunities. You gave Justin opportunities, I interrupted. You gave me expectations. There's a difference. If you don't help your brother, my father said, his voice taking on a threatening tone. Don't consider yourself part of this family anymore. I took a deep breath, feeling Andrew's supportive hand on my shoulder. Dad, I haven't considered myself part of that family for 3 years. Not since you chose to defend Justin after he betrayed me. I've built a new life, with people who value and respect me. I wish you and Mom and Justin well. But I won't be manipulated or guilted into enabling behavior that hurts everyone involved, including Justin. There was silence on the other end of the line. Then my mother spoke. Her voice tearful, but with an edge of realization. You really don't need us, do you? No, I said gently. I don't. And that's not something to be sad about. It means you succeeded in raising at least one independent adult. I hope someday Justin gets there too. I ended the call before they could respond, feeling lighter than I had in years. Andrew pulled me into a hug. Are you okay? He asked. Actually, yes, I replied, surprised to find it was true. For the first time, I feel like I've truly broken the cycle. Not by running away from it, but by facing it directly and choosing a different path. We finished making dinner together, talking about work and friends and our plans for the weekend. Normal life. The life I had built for myself continued. And it was good. 6 months passed without any contact from Justin or my parents. Spring turned to summer in Seattle, bringing long, beautiful days that Andrew and I filled with hikes, weekend trips to nearby islands, and evenings in our backyard with friends. Professionally, things were better than ever. My consistent performance and innovative campaigns earned me a promotion to senior marketing director, with a team of 8 people reporting to me. The irony wasn't lost on me that I now held a position considerably higher than the one I'd lost due to Justin's betrayal years earlier. On a personal front, Andrew proposed during a sunset kayak trip on Lake Union. We decided on a small wedding the following spring, surrounded by friends who had become our chosen family. Stephanie agreed to be my maid of honor, flying out to Seattle twice to help with planning and to celebrate at my engagement party. Have you thought about inviting your parents? Stephanie asked carefully during one of her visits. Or Justin. I've thought about it, I admitted. But I'm not sure it would be healthy for any of us. Some distance seems best. Stephanie nodded, understanding without judgment. Having witnessed our family dynamics firsthand throughout childhood, she knew better than most how complicated the situation was. I ran into your mom at the grocery store last week, she mentioned. She asked about you. What did you tell her? Just that you were doing well and happy, Stephanie replied. She seemed genuinely glad to hear it. I appreciated Stephanie's discretion. She had always been a loyal friend, never sharing more than I would be comfortable with. Oh. And I heard through the grapevine that Justin finally moved out of your parents' house, she added. Apparently he's got a job at that new tech company downtown. Entry-level customer support. But it's something. I felt a small surge of hope at this news. Perhaps Justin was finally taking steps toward independence. I didn't wish him ill, despite everything. I just wanted him to grow up. To take responsibility for his life and choices. A week after Stephanie's visit, I received an unexpected email from Justin. The message was brief, but struck me with its sincerity. Amanda. I've been thinking about our conversation for months. At first, I was angry that you wouldn't help me the way I wanted. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized you were right about a lot of things. I've been letting Mom and Dad rescue me my whole life, and it's kept me from growing up. I found a job in customer support at Tech now. It's not glamorous, but it's a start. I've moved into a small apartment with a roommate and am trying to budget my money for the first time ever. It's harder than I expected, but also somewhat satisfying. I know one email doesn't make up for years of bad behavior. I'm not asking for forgiveness or trying to reestablish contact. I just wanted you to know that what you said made a difference, even if it took me a while to hear it. Justin. I read the email several times, feeling a complex mix of emotions. There was no manipulation in his words, no request for help or money, just a simple acknowledgement. I chose not to respond, not out of coldness, but because I felt we both needed more time and space. Some healing couldn't be rushed. A month later, a formal letter arrived from my parents. The stiff, proper stationery was so characteristic of them that I almost smiled. Inside was a carefully worded note that stopped short of a full apology, but acknowledged that they had perhaps been uneven in how they treated Justin and me over the years. "We are proud of the success you've built for yourself," they wrote. "While we may not have always shown it appropriately, we have never stopped caring about you." Like Justin's email. I didn't immediately respond to their letter. These tentative reaches felt important but fragile. True reconciliation, if it ever happened, would require more than words on paper. It would require changed behavior, respect for boundaries, and time. As I prepared for my wedding and continued building my career, I reflected often on the journey that had brought me here. The therapy sessions with Dr. Fisher had helped me understand that my family's dysfunction wasn't my fault, nor was it my responsibility to fix. I had learned to identify toxic patterns and set healthy boundaries, skills I now used in all my relationships. Andrew and I bought a larger house, a beautiful craftsman with a view of the mountains, creating a home that felt warm and welcoming to the community of friends we'd gathered. Our dinner parties became a monthly tradition, filling our home with laughter and conversation. This was the family I had chosen, people who celebrated my successes and supported me through challenges. I began volunteering as a mentor for young professional women entering the marketing field, sharing the knowledge I'd gained and helping them navigate the complexities of corporate environments. Guiding these bright, ambitious women gave me a sense of purpose beyond my own career, a way to transform my difficult experiences into something positive for others. One evening, as Andrew and I walked our dog along the waterfront, he asked if I regretted cutting ties with my family. "Not regret, exactly," I answered thoughtfully. I needed that distance to become the person I am now. I had to learn that forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it just means letting go of the anger so it doesn't consume you. "And have you let go of the anger?" he asked. I considered this as we watched the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. Mostly. I still have moments where it flares up, especially when I think about specific incidents. But it doesn't define me anymore. "Do you think you'll ever have a relationship with them again?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Maybe someday. If they can respect my boundaries and acknowledge the past honestly. But even if that never happens, I'm at peace with it. I've learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up for you, who celebrates your joys and shares your sorrows. By that definition, I have an amazing family right here." Andrew squeezed my hand. "Yes, you do." The journey from that devastated young woman whose career had been derailed by her brother's betrayal to the confident, successful person I had become wasn't easy. It required courage to walk away from toxic relationships, even when those relationships were with family. It demanded resilience to rebuild after betrayal, strength to establish boundaries, and wisdom to recognize when reconciliation wasn't healthy. But the most important lesson I learned was that we all have the power to choose our path, regardless of our history. We can't control how others treat us, but we can control how we respond. We can break cycles of dysfunction, create healthy boundaries, and build lives filled with authentic relationships. If my story resonates with you, if you've ever had to make the painful choice between family obligation and self-respect, I want you to know you're not alone. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary for your well-being. Have you ever had to make difficult decisions about family relationships? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story helped you feel less alone, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, the family that matters most is the one that truly sees and values you, whether they're related by blood or by choice.